Hey, we're back for the first time since like October, something like that. It's been a while since I've done a podcast. Um, I'm excited about it. Big news today: Jim Harbaugh is officially no longer a college football coach. He is back in the NFL. I almost said San Diego Chargers, but no, he's been hired by the LA Chargers. So let's talk about this because I have a couple of thoughts on why Harbaugh is no longer in college football. I think right now, if you ask Jim Harbaugh where he wants to be, he still wants to be the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. That's what he wants. Now he's not anymore. But here's the reason it didn't work. He did not and has not for the past several years gotten along with that athletic director. If you go back to their first playoff appearance, within just weeks of the championship game ending, he and the athletic director were at spats with one another, and the president of Michigan had to step in. And then you had the scandal this year over the sign stealing. If we actually want to break down what sign stealing is, first off, every team is doing it. You say, oh, that's not important. No, it's freaking important because here's the thing. Imagine you're on a highway, the speed limit is 60, and literally everybody is doing 75, and the cop decides to pick one person out. Like, come on. Everybody was literally doing this. There was no reason to pick out Harbaugh, and the leak was rumored to have come from within the Michigan camp. Well, who else would that be but the athletic director? And so I think Harbaugh wanted to stay in college. If you look at when he was at Stanford, when he's at Michigan, and just his temperament compared to when he coached at the 49ers last, he seems way happier. Even when they weren't doing well, he seemed way happier. And so now he's going to the NFL. I think he felt like he was being pushed out and the writing was on the wall. I do. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. I think he does. I think he's going to be great at it. The Chargers, I think, is a fantastic place for him to go. He gets a quarterback. You don't always get that. And he's going right into the toughest division in the NFL. So if you're going to prove it, the AFC West would be, I mean, either that or the AFC North, where his brother is. That would be the division to prove it. It's a fascinating hire for them. Now, Michigan candidates, they've pretty much already moved on, and it looks like I'd say by the end of tomorrow, Sharon Moore, who's been the offensive coordinator, he's going to be promoted to head coach. Now, I was talking to a friend about this earlier today. He's like, why wouldn't Dan Lanning get the call? I think anybody at Michigan would want Dan Lanning. I think the problem is, even if you bring in a coach like Dan Lanning, you're going to have a bunch of kids because with the coach leaving, now they can all jump back into the portal. You're going to have a bunch of kids going to the portal, and it's going to be impossible to replace them. I mean, even Will Rogers left the portal today to stay at Washington. So you're not going to have a pick of a lot of people if they leave. Promoting Sharon Moore ensures that a lot of these kids are going to stay. We're going to stay at Michigan, and you're not going to lose as many kids to the portal. There'll still be some, but not a lot. I think it's absolutely fascinating with him going to be the head coach because you're promoting from within. You don't have to give him a long leash. You give him like a 2-year contract. If it's not working out, then you go get the best candidate available. The thing about Harbaugh that's really interesting is he took Michigan, which was a really good job. It was, but it was not elite when he took it over. Remember, they had trouble filling the shoes before, and they had to settle for Brady Hoke. Then Harbaugh comes in. He took it from a really good job. He's made it into an elite level job in all of college football. What he has done to not just win a championship, but turn Michigan around as a program is incredible. And so they're going to go hire Sharon Moore. I think it's a nice hire. And simultaneously, if you look over at Ohio State across the aisle, Ohio State, according to none other than Lane Kiffin, who, I mean, look, if you're on X and you're not following Lane Kiffin, honestly, what are you doing? It's the best follow in all of X. But he tweets out, posts out, whatever it is, that Ohio State spent $13 million in NIL money. So they're doing that the same year, and that's being rumored within the same week that Harbaugh leaves Michigan. Why is that? Why is Ohio State, and I believe that number is real, I would not be shocked if it's more than that. Why are they spending so much in NIL this year specifically? And it's far more than any other program not named Texas. It's far more. Why are they doing that? I think they're sending a strong message. I think they're going to give Ryan Day every single tool that he needs to win the championship this year. And I think in Ohio State, it is literally championship or bust. There is no we won the Big Ten, we didn't win a championship. There is no we made the playoff. When you spend $13 million in NIL money, you are only doing it for one reason, and that is because you are going all in on winning a championship. And they're trying to see, is Ryan Day the guy? Look, he's lost now 3 straight years to Harbaugh. So now Michigan's promoting Sharon Moore. If Sharon Moore is the head coach of Michigan, beats Ohio State again, and if Ohio State gets left out of the championship game again, Ryan Day will not be back as the head coach of Ohio State, because these boosters are going to look at this. They're going to call the athletic director and look, we invested way too much money into this program to not win a championship. It's not that Ohio State's chaotic. They have high expectations because the brand is massive. It is the only program north of Tennessee that operates like an SEC program. It is literally the only one. Even USC does not have the expectations that Ohio State has. So when they spend $13 million, my takeaway is, yeah, they're going to give Ryan Day every reason he can to win. He's going to have no excuses. If they get to the end of the year, they've not won a championship, you can't blame the coordinators. They gave you a bunch of money to hire them. You've got 2 of the best coordinators in the game. You can't blame the players. You can't blame NIL. You literally cannot blame anything else but you. And maybe he proves everybody wrong. Maybe he does go and win it. And then if he does, cool, you got your guy. Now, the question after that is going to be, even if he wins it, is okay, we got him. We're going to keep him around. But realistically, are we going to have to spend 13, 14, 15 million a year in NIL money just to keep winning championships? Because at some point, the boosters are going to look at it and be like, okay, that's not feasible either. There's got to be some sort of balance here. So I think we've got a new coach coming into Michigan, which is great. But the Ohio State situation with that level of NIL money is fascinating to watch. And I'll tell you the other one that I think is going to start heating up, even though they made the playoff, I don't think it matters. I mean, literally, I don't think it matters. Watch Texas. Keep your eye on the Longhorns. Nobody spends NIL money like the Texas Longhorns do. They have overspent everybody else. I think it's double of second place, which would be Ohio State, in NIL money. It is absolutely ridiculous how invested they are in on that program. And so a lot of people, they look at Sarkisian and they go, wow, he got this team to the playoff. He's doing pretty good. He's got Arch Manning coming in. He's doing pretty good. That's fine. But you also got to look at, how feasible is it to continue to spend that much money? And if you're spending that much money, and this is the new way the game is played in college football, if you've got that much NIL money coming in, the stakes are higher. The stakes are higher. So you've got to perform. It can't just be, we made the playoff, we played a close game. That's not it anymore. No, it's got to be, we made the playoff and we won the championship. And that's going to be the level that they expect. So I think Texas or Ohio State, because of how much they have spent in NIL money, one of those programs is open this time next year, or they're replacing their head coach. I firmly believe we're going to see a major shift at one of those programs. Both of those coaches, very similar, offensive minded, creative, fun, but when you get to the big games, they're not always dialed in. They're all not always buttoned up. They miss on a lot of details, and we've seen that time and again from Ryan Day and time and again from Steve Sarkisian. So I'm fascinated to see going into next year, if it's not an Ohio State versus Texas championship, one of those programs is going to open up, and it's going to be fascinating. So we got lots of movement in head coaches. I want to go through some of these new hires. Again, we've got Sharon Moore. He'll probably take the Michigan job. I can't imagine any reason he wouldn't. That doesn't get put out there unless it's pretty much already a done deal. So we're going to start off with some of the smaller, and we're going to keep it Power 4 programs. But Brent Brennan goes to Arizona. Now, Brent Brennan was the head coach of the Spartans. That's fine. Here's the problem. Brent Brennan comes in with a losing record. I'm not a fan of hiring a coach that's coming in with a losing record. And I don't care. Like, I know San Jose State, it's not a great mid-major program. It's not a great group of 5 program. They don't invest a ton of money. I get that. But 34-48 over 7 seasons, even if you're turning around the program, that's not enough to move the needle for me as the head coach of a Power 4 program. I think Arizona took a major step back. Think Mario Cristobal going to Miami. They made this move because Brent Brennan can recruit. That's great. You're in a stacked Big 12. Who in there can't recruit at the level that Arizona can? They can all recruit. All these coaches can recruit. I want to know, when we get into these bigger games, when you get matched up against even opponents, how are you going to do? And San Jose State, past couple of years, they've been fine, but he's had a big losing record there. I don't know that he's the right guy to take over for Jedd Fisch. I think Jedd Fisch was an amazing hire for Arizona and did an amazing job turning around that program. Don't forget, Arizona was a bottom feeder program in the Pac-12 the past forever until Jedd Fisch got there and then turned them around. I'm not a big fan of that hire. Now, Washington, ironically, they hire Jedd Fisch out of Arizona. I think this is a really smart hire. Washington, look, if you want to know who to hire and find a program that's got a track record of just constantly hitting. And yeah, they hired Jimmy Lake and that didn't work out. So they've missed one. Okay, that's fine. They hit on just about everybody else. Here's what they look for: competency and intelligence. It's literally it. They don't care, are you offensive or defensive minded. They don't care, are you coming in with a spread program, or you're going to hurry up and try and out stamina everybody else. They don't care about that. Are you smart? Are you competent? Those are the only 2 things that they care about. And Jedd Fisch is a handful of both. He's also a big culture guy. The culture at Arizona, and this is why I don't think Brent Brennan's a great hire. The culture at Arizona, night and day difference from where it was even just 3 years ago. And we were doing this podcast earlier in the year, and I said, keep an eye on Arizona. They're going to be a bowl team. They're going to be a bowl team. I had a lot of people give me flack about that. I'm like, no, Jedd Fisch is an amazing head coach. He did turn around Arizona. Jaden DeLoria, he turned him into a really nice quarterback. He's going to work at Washington. Now, to what level? I don't know, because he's going from the Pac-12, which this year was not bad for sure, but historically has been. And now he's going into the Big Ten. So now you got to recruit. You've got Washington going into the Big Ten with you. Who's going to battle for those Northwestern California recruits? You got to recruit. You got to build. You got to hire the right coordinators. That's going to be part of the new wave of college football, is who's doing the best job of hiring coordinators. So it's a different game. I think that's a great hire for Washington. If you ask me to grade it, I'd give it an A. I think that's a fantastic hire for them. Alabama, they hired Kalen DeBoer out of Washington. Look, Kalen DeBoer, smart, competent. Those are the 2 traits to look for. He's both. He's got an incredible track record. Came out of Fresno State, goes into Washington. I think we got to keep in mind that Washington team came as close as anybody to winning the national championship. Washington, as a program, should not be in that level of a position. They just shouldn't be. If you look at the programs that should be there, Georgia, USC, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas A&M, LSU, The Oregon, those are programs that are spending a considerable amount of money. Washington's not that they don't spend some, but not like the other three or the others, many. And now he goes into Alabama. Well, Alabama's going to spend money. This is a guy that's got a proven track record. He's really, really smart. I like him better than Dan Lanning. I think there's a reason he beat Lanning. I think it was like 3 or 4 times while he was at Washington. I don't know that he lost to Lanning. This is a fantastic coach. Now, he's taken over Alabama. I don't buy into the taking over for Nick Saban as a bad job. I don't. I think that's bar talk you have with your friend. Think if you ask Kalen DeBoer, how's life at Alabama? Be like, it's pretty darn good. They're paying me tens of millions of dollars to coach here. I can go get any recruit I want. I fly on a private plane wherever I want to go. I don't have to worry about academic restrictions. They'll let me bring in whatever. I can hire any coordinator I want. You're set up for success there. Now, I get it. Not that it doesn't come with its own challenges, but every job comes with its own challenges. That is a fantastic job for any coach. He's a fantastic hire. I give that one an A plus. I would be floored. I mean, floored if it doesn't work. All right, Texas A&M. They hire Mike Elko out of Duke. Again, think smart, competent. I think Mike Elko was smart. I don't think he's competent. The way he left Duke was absolutely awful. And I know a lot of people want to say, oh, well, it's Duke and the way people leave and all this stuff. No, 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 no. The way he did this was absolutely awful. The way he treated those players, the way he treated those coaches, the way he treated those position coaches. And if you watch, there are some people that have followed him, but a lot of people that were thought to follow him to Texas A&M have not. They've either stayed at Duke or they've gone and taken jobs elsewhere, even though Texas A&M offered them. That's not a great sign. And a lot of these players, after Elko left, came out and they just railed against Elko. I mean, railed against him. So I think Elko is smart. And that's why in a terrible ACC, he was able to find some success at Duke. I think he also was given an incredible quarterback in Riley Leonard. Again, you're not going to get that all the time. A&M is going to spend a bunch of money, but A&M's got this track record of hiring coaches that can't get past 8-4 and 9-3. That's been their track record. I don't know that Mike Elko is that much better of a coach than Jimbo Fisher. Ask yourself this. If Jimbo Fisher were the head coach at Duke with the same roster, same coordinator, same everything last year, would they have won 8 games? I think they would have. I do, because the ACC is awful. It's not necessarily because I think like Duke had this incredible team or anything, but the ACC is awful. It was the worst conference by far in all of Power 5. You could make the argument it wasn't as good as the Mountain West. It was awful. And so Mike Elko won some games there. That's cool. I don't know that he's the right hire at Texas A&M. So he had some success. I'd give that grade a C. I don't think it's great. I think it's okay. Maybe he works. For me, I don't feel like they made a big jump from Jimbo Fisher to another guy. I think it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. Jonathan Smith takes over at Michigan State. I think this is great. And I think when this hire was first announced, you're like, okay, how much success can he have? Well, now that you've got Harbaugh leaving and they're bringing in a coordinator, look, Michigan State's a program that has a history of success. Harbaugh ran Mel Tucker out of town. Okay, and I don't care that they fired him for calls and all that stuff. Harbaugh ran Mel Tucker out of town with recruiting, with winning. I mean, Mel Tucker beat Michigan that one time, and it's been downhill ever since. Jonathan Smith took over an Oregon State program that has been much of nothing prior to him taking over. He turned them into a legitimate team. He took DJ Uiagalelei, who everybody else was ready to sell, turned him into a legitimate quarterback again this year. He's a really, really smart, competent head coach, recruits well, understands the area. And I think now that he doesn't have Harbaugh across the state to deal with, I think he's going to be a phenomenal success at Michigan State. I give that grade an A. I think it's a smart hire. And if you ask me today, Michigan with Sharon Moore or Michigan State with Jonathan Smith, who do I feel more confident in? Jonathan Smith. because he has the head coaching experience and because he's turned around a program like this before. And if you just ask yourself this, if you're Michigan State, would you take the past 3 years with Jonathan Smith at Oregon State? Would you take the success he had there at Michigan State if you just duplicate the same records? I think you would. Now, look, he's got to completely overhaul that roster this year. That's one of the worst rosters in all of college football, including Group of Five. It's not going to be easy for him to do that. But I think over time, you give him a few years, that thing's going to work really, really well. Okay. David Braun took over at Northwestern. To me, he was coach of the year, in my opinion. What he did taking over for Pat Fitzgerald, the team that he took over for, and having that level of success, just outstanding. He's going to be totally fine. Okay. Jeff Lebby takes over at Mississippi State. Look, I don't know. I don't know why they fired Zach Arnett, to be honest with you. Not that I thought Arnett was blowing it up by any means, but you had the situation with Mike Leach last year. Arnett took over. I think if that's the guy that you were going to give the reins to, you got to at least give him a couple of years. Jeff Lebby coming in from Oklahoma. Now, I'll say this, Oklahoma overperformed in a lot of areas this year. I don't know that he's ready to be a head coach. And I think if you look at the SEC, boy, it's brutal. I mean, you got Lane Kiffin in the state. You got Texas A&M next door. They're going to spend more money than you. Auburn's got Hugh Freeze. I like Hugh Freeze more than Jeff Lebby. Alabama, we just talked about him. LSU, Georgia. And like you start looking down the list, if Jeff Lebby is a good, capable head coach, Mississippi State might still be the 11th or 12th best team in that conference. And that's if he's good. And we don't know if he's good. So I wouldn't have fired Zach Arnett to begin with. I think you give him at least a couple more years, let him build up your brand a little bit, and then go hire somebody if he's not working out. I think they jumped the gun on this way too early. I don't know if it's going to work out. Syracuse. They fired Dino Babers. They replaced him with Fran Brown, who was the defensive backs coach at Georgia. I'm not a big fan of hiring position coaches to come in and coach your team. Arkansas did this with Sam. Shoot, why am I blanking on that guy's last name? I can picture him. But Arkansas did this with their coach, Sam Pittman. You bring in a position coach, it might work in the beginning, but eventually it's going to be tough for them to handle the media. It's going to be tough for them to handle the locker room. Something's going to blow up. Now you got the NIL. As a coordinator, you deal with that a little bit more. As a position coach, not really. I don't know that he's the right guy to take over for this. That to me is the worst hire in Power 5 possibly. I'd give that a D. Trent Bray, he takes over at Oregon State. This was a promotion from within. It was an effort to try and, again, keep the roster going, try and prevent a lot of turnover. I understand it. I don't know if he's going to work. I don't know enough about him. He was a defensive coordinator last year at Oregon State. They've been a good team. So I think promoting from the within is probably the right hire, especially as Oregon State tries to figure out where's their home going to be. Are they going to be independent? Are they going to end up in the Big 12? Are they going to get an invite to the Big 10? Are they going to go to this, whatever the ACC is going to change their name to? You don't know. So to bring in Trent Bray just to keep the roster continuity there, I think is the right hire. I don't know if he's going to work. So I'd give it a C+ to a B-, somewhere in that. I think it's an okay hire, but I don't know that he's the right guy long-term. All right, let's go Indiana. They bring in Curt Cignetti from JMU. Look, Cignetti, and this segment's going to pain me. It's like stabbing me in the heart that I'm going to say this about JMU because I loathe JMU. That's why I'm sitting here wearing Liberty stuff. Loathe it. I don't know that Curt Cignetti was going to work at Indiana because I think JMU is one of the best Group of 5 programs, one of the best, before you LTBC people decide to come at me. And if you think that's an acronym for something else, it's an acronym for the Twitter Bracket Challenge, not whatever liberal thing you just tried to think that I was talking about. Let's move on from that. Curt Cignetti was that one of the best group of 5 programs in all of college football. They give you more money, they give you more support in the NIL. They've got a history of recruiting really, really well in that area. And he took them over and he had a lot of success. Indiana in the Big Ten with USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon coming in, again, it kind of goes back to earlier with Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. Maybe Cignetti's a good coach, but you're never going to know it because Indiana is going to be like the 12th or 13th best team in that conference. You're never going to know if he's the right coach. I also don't know that he can recruit at the level it takes to win at the Power 4 or whatever level. I don't know that he can do it, especially for Indiana. Like, we know we can recruit 2 and 3 stars and he can make a competitive team. But can you go into the living room of a 4-star cornerback and convince them to not go to Penn State and go to Indiana instead? I don't know that he can. So look, I'm not a big fan of just hiring recruiters, but at the same time, Cignetti, he's aging. He's not going to be there more than 5 to 6 years. I think he's in his like mid to late 60s. I don't know that this is the right hire for an Indiana team. I think he should have stayed at JMU. I think Indiana could have hired somebody better than this. I think they just looked at the win-loss record and said, yep, that's our guy. Again, smart, sure. Competent, I don't know. All right, Manny Diaz, he goes to take over at Duke. He was the Penn State defensive coordinator. I think this is a brilliant hire. Manny Diaz had a winning record at Miami. Now, was he outstanding at Miami? Did he jump off the page? No. But look at Miami in the past several years. Who has jumped off the page? It's not the same program. They don't have a great NIL. They don't have great facilities. The city's not into it anymore like they used to be. And they don't have a big alumni support. It's just, we need to have an admission at some point that Miami is not the program we've made it out to be. Like, the reason I know Mario Cristobal is not a good coach is because any coach that could examine the landscape of college football and say Miami is where I want to be and not Oregon tells you all I need to know about his intelligence and competence. Nobody with any lick of intelligence would do that. He's a good recruiter. That's literally it. Manny Diaz should have been kept at Miami. He was doing an amazing job there. He's going to do an amazing job at Duke. I am so stoked for that hire. I think he's really smart. And the other thing I think about too with Duke is I don't think he's going to get poached because I think a big program isn't going to want to take, especially a big SEC program, like, you know how SEC fans are, they're going to look at that and they're going to go, oh man, like, we can't bring in a guy who barely had a winning record at Miami. Like, you can make that work at Duke. Georgia's not going to do that. South Carolina is not going to do that. So Manny Diaz, I think, is going to be at Duke for a long time. This is not an up and coming coach. It's a proven coach. He knows how to coach. Penn State's defense was incredible past this last year. Incredible. Say what you want about the offense. The defense, amazing. And I think he's going to make Duke's defense really, really good. Like, if you look at Duke and UNC and NC State and those coaches, and I mean, I know UNC fans have their issues with Mac Brown. It'll be interesting now that Drake May is not there anymore. But other than that, you look at those coaches and those programs, how could you not be excited for those programs? Manny Diaz is a home run hire for Duke. They've already went out, knocked it out of the park in the portal, bringing in the Texas quarterback. That's an A-plus hire for me. And it's not just because I enjoy watching Duke football and I've rooted for them for a long time. I legitimately believe Manny Diaz is going to win there. Now, is he going to win an ACC championship and get Duke into the playoff? No. Like, I'm sorry. I've been watching Duke football for a long time. Duke's not going to the playoff. I'm sorry. But can he get Duke to 8-9 wins a year on a consistent basis? Absolutely, he can do that. That's a fantastic hire. All right. Terry Bowden has finally left football. That's a fascinating name I did not know was around. See if there was any other coaches I really wanted to talk about. Neil Brown gets retained at West Virginia. He got a big season in 2023. They went 8-4, went to a bowl game. Yeah, he absolutely should have been retained. Dave Aranda retained at Baylor. That's another program Watch the next year. I don't know if they're going to keep him around. He had a fantastic season right out of the gate. It's been downhill at Baylor ever since. I don't know that he's going to stay there much longer. That's pretty much it. See, are there any other hires we need to discuss? I think that's pretty much it. Talked about Michigan. No, that looks solid. All right, check the comments. We got comments. Ray Farrell's in here. He's saying, we're glad to have you here, Ray. Appreciate you, buddy. We're going to close with this. If you're a Liberty fan, Liberty Twitter Bracket Challenge. Or, I mean, I guess it's still LTBC, but it's no longer Twitter. So what are we calling it? All right, they're changing the rules on it. Here's the thing. You got to nominate me if you want the press conferences. I've got the press conferences ready to go, but I got to be nominated for this thing. Second thing is, you got to vote for me. Y'all see my man cave. I mean, look, I've got this sitting up here in the man cave. I've got this sitting up here in the man cave. Yes, Malik Willis' signature. Both of those things hang out with me. What is the man cave missing? I'm telling you right now, that wall right there, literally within a couple months, the LTBC belt needs to be hanging on that wall. And I need your help to get that puppy in my man cave sitting up there. And yes, I will be creating lots of Chad After Dark pictures. There's more coming, baby. We got content coming at you all over the place. But please vote. Please nominate me. That would mean a lot. You guys have a good night.